Hello, my wife, Emma, and I have been together for 8 years, married for 5. When we first met, she was the life of the party, charismatic, funny, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and have everyone's attention in seconds. I'm more on the quiet side, but somehow, we balanced each other out. At least, that's what I thought. Things were great at first. We laughed a lot, traveled, had inside jokes that no one else would get. We were that couple people envied. But if I'm being honest, I should have seen the signs years ago. Emma had always craved attention. She thrived on compliments, loved being the center of everything. She was always the one making new friends, talking to strangers, charming her way through life. I didn't mind it at first. But over time, it started to feel different. A few months ago, things shifted. It was subtle at first, little changes that didn't seem like much on their own, but together, they started forming a pattern. She started going out more. She always had an excuse: girls' nights, work outings, meeting an old friend for drinks. I didn't think much of it at first. Emma was social. She always had plans. But then it became a regular thing that she'd come home late, way past midnight, sometimes even later. I'd ask how her night was, and she'd give short, vague answers. No details, just a distracted, "Oh, it was fun," before disappearing into the bathroom with her phone glued to her hand. That was another thing, the phone. Emma had never been one to hide her phone before. We used to scroll through memes together, laugh at random messages, even play stupid games on each other's devices. But now? Her phone was off. Limits. It was always face down on the table. Always on silent. And if I so much as glanced in its direction, she'd grab it like I was trying to steal state secrets. One night, she left it on the couch while she was in the shower. I wasn't planning on looking through it, but then a notification popped up. A message from someone named Liam. I had never heard of a Liam. Never met a Liam. And the message? It was too friendly. Too flirty. My stomach twisted. Something felt wrong, but instead of opening the message, I did something stupid. I let it go. I told myself I was being paranoid. That I was overreacting. That Emma would never do something like that to me, but deep down, I knew. I knew, and that was my biggest mistake, because what I would eventually find out, it would destroy everything. I should have checked her phone that night. I should have followed my gut. But I didn't. Instead, I convinced myself that I was overthinking, that there was a perfectly reasonable explanation for why some guy named Liam was messaging my wife late at night. I told myself I trusted her. That she would never betray me. That was the last time I ignored my instincts, because after that night, the signs became impossible to ignore. Emma's behavior got even more suspicious. She started dressing up more when she went out, wearing outfits she never wore around me, spending extra time on her makeup, making sure she looked absolutely perfect before stepping out the door. And every time I asked where she was going, the answer was always the same: just grabbing drinks with the girls. But her stories? They were full of holes. She'd come home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. She'd be vague about who she was with, stumbling over details that didn't add up. One night, I casually asked who all went out with her. She rattled off a few names, and then, when I asked something simple, where they had gone, she froze for just a second. Just long enough for me to notice. Then she forced a smile and said, "Oh, just the usual spot." Except, we didn't have a usual spot. Something inside me clicked. I stopped asking questions. I started paying attention, and that's when I started seeing the patterns. Every Friday night, Emma was suddenly busy. It wasn't just an occasional outing anymore. It was like she had an appointment. She'd get ready at the same time, take longer than usual to pick out her outfit, spritz on a little extra perfume before heading out. So I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I started checking her location history. Emma had shared her location with me a long time ago, back when we trusted each other. She probably forgot about it, or maybe she never thought I'd use it, and that's when I saw it. She wasn't going to her usual girls' night spots, she was going to the same bar. Every single Friday. A bar I had never even heard her mention before. I didn't know what to do with that information at first. Maybe she just liked the place. Maybe it had good drinks, a nice atmosphere, but deep down, I knew better. That Friday, I made a decision. Instead of sitting at home, waiting for her to come back with another round of half-truths and fake smiles, I was going to see it for myself. So I got in my car and drove to the bar, and what I saw when I got there, it changed everything. That Friday night, I sat in my car outside the bar, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My heart was pounding, my mind racing with every possible scenario. Was I overreacting? Was I about to make a fool of myself, or was I about to confirm the worst-case scenario? The bar was loud, packed, full of people laughing and drinking like nothing in the world could go wrong. I stayed outside for a minute, trying to pull myself together. Then, I took a deep breath, pushed open the door, and stepped inside. I scanned the room, and then, I saw her, Emma. Sitting at the bar, not with her friends. Not alone, she was with a man, Liam. I knew it was him the moment I saw him. Tall, fit, dark hair, exactly the type of guy Emma had always found attractive. But that wasn't what made my stomach drop. It was the way she was looking at him, the way she was leaning in close, twirling a strand of hair around her finger, her lips curved into that playful, flirty smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. She looked like a woman completely free of guilt. And him, he had one hand on her thigh, fingers tracing small circles over the fabric of her dress, right there. In public, she hadn't even bothered to hide it. The anger hit me so fast, so violently, that I had to take a step back. My ears were ringing, my vision blurring at the edges. I forced myself to stay calm. I needed proof. So I pulled out my phone and took a picture, and then, I walked straight to the bar. I stopped right behind her. Close enough that she should have felt my presence, should have sensed that something was wrong, but she didn't, because she was too busy laughing at something Liam had said, too lost in whatever little world they had built behind my back. I waited a few seconds. Let her bask in it, then I leaned down and said her name. She froze. Absolutely froze. Slowly, she turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw something break in her expression, fear. Liam pulled his hand away from her leg, looking between us, clearly confused. Emma stammered, her mouth opening and closing like she was scrambling for an excuse. But there was nothing she could say, because the evidence was right there in front of us. She had been caught, and now, it was time for the confrontation. Emma looked like she had just seen a ghost. Her face drained of color, her mouth opened like she wanted to say something, but for once in her life, she was speechless. Liam, on the other hand, had the audacity to look at me like I was the one intruding. Like I was the problem. I stared at him for a second, just long enough for the weight of the situation to settle over both of them. Then, I turned back to my wife. Go ahead, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Explain this. She blinked. Shook her head. And then, as if flipping a switch, she pulled herself together and tried to spin the story. It's not what it looks like, she blurted out. I almost laughed. Classic. The oldest excuse in the book. I glanced at Liam, who suddenly looked uncomfortable. Maybe he wasn't used to dealing with angry husbands. Maybe he had no idea she was married. Maybe he didn't care. Emma stood up, reaching for my arm like she could somehow control the situation if she could just touch me. I stepped back. I wasn't giving her that. Why are you here? She asked, her voice laced with annoyance, like I was the one ruining her night. That was it. That was the moment my anger snapped into something sharp and cold. I pulled out my phone and showed her the picture I had just taken, her, sitting at the bar. His hand on her leg, her face went blank. I could ask you the same thing, I said. Since you're obviously not out with the girls. She looked at the picture like she had no idea how it had happened. Like she wasn't sitting in front of me, caught red-handed, and then, she went into full defense mode. This is ridiculous, she scoffed. You're overreacting. We're just talking. I pointed at his hand in the photo. Just talking? I repeated. Because that doesn't look like just talking to me. Liam, who had been silent this whole time, finally muttered something under his breath and stood up, clearly wanting no part of this. He looked at Emma like he was realizing, in real time, that she wasn't worth the trouble. I'll see you later, he mumbled before walking away, and just like that, he abandoned her. Emma watched him go, her expression flickering between rage and panic. Then she turned back to me, her eyes narrowing. And what did she do? She flipped it on me. Oh, so you're spying on me now, she snapped. That's insane. Do you not trust me? I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. Trust you? I said, shaking my head. Are you serious right now? She crossed her arms, like she was the victim in all of this. This is why I don't tell you things, she huffed. Because you're controlling. You always assume the worst. That was when it hit me. She wasn't sorry, she wasn't even trying to apologize, she was angry at me for catching her. I had walked in on my own wife cozying up to another man, and she had the audacity to act like I was the problem. That I took one last look at her, standing there in her fancy dress, her makeup perfectly done, looking every bit the woman I had once loved. But I didn't love this version of her, the one who could lie so easily. The one who could cheat and feel nothing. You know what? I said, stepping back. You deserve each other. And then, I walked out. I walked out of that bar and didn't look back. Emma didn't chase me. She didn't call my name, didn't try to stop me. And honestly, that told me everything I needed to know. That I got in my car, sat there for a second, and let it all sink in. That my wife was cheating on me, not just emotionally. Not just texting some guy behind my back. Physically. Flirting. Sitting in a bar with a stranger like she didn't have a husband at home. And the worst part, she wasn't even sorry. She had looked me in the eyes and blamed me for her getting caught. She had tried to make me feel like I was being paranoid. Like I was the problem. That I had spent months ignoring red flags, making excuses for her, convincing myself that I was just imagining things. But now? There was no denying it. That I wasn't going home. Not to her. Instead, I drove to my best friend Kyle's place. The moment he opened the door and saw my face, he didn't even ask what was wrong, just stepped aside and let me in. We sat down, and I finally said the words out loud. Emma is cheating on me. Kyle didn't even look surprised. Instead, he just sighed, shook his head, and muttered, I was afraid of that. That hit me hard, because if he had suspected it, who else had known? Had I been the only person blind to what was happening? I told him everything about the weird behavior, the excuses, the bar, the way she had looked at Liam. Kyle listened, shaking his head the whole time. Then, when I was finished, he leaned forward and said, so what are you gonna do now? That was the real question, wasn't it? Because Emma? She wasn't the type to apologize. She wasn't the type to own up to her mistakes and beg for forgiveness. No, she was the type to double down, twist the truth, and make herself the victim. That I knew exactly what was coming. She would come up with some ridiculous excuse, she would lie, manipulate, cry, anything to make me feel guilty. She would say I was overreacting, throwing away our marriage over nothing. And the scary part, she might actually believe it, but me, I was done. I wasn't going to give her the chance to spin her story. I was going to take control of the situation before she could. So, while sitting in Kyle's apartment, I pulled out my phone, opened my messages, and sent Emma a single text. I know what I saw. We're done. Then, I blocked her. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to let her mess with my head. She had made her choice, and now, she was going to have to live with it. The moment I sent that text and blocked Emma's number, a weight lifted off my chest. That I wasn't going to let her manipulate me, gaslight me, or spin this into some misunderstanding. She had made her choice. Now, she was going to face the consequences. For the first time in months, I actually felt in control. But of course, Emma? She wasn't about to let me walk away that easily. The next morning, I woke up at Kyle's place to a flood of notifications. Apparently, Emma had realized I blocked her and decided to go nuclear. I had dozens of missed calls from mutual friends, messages piling up in every group chat we were in. She had gone into full panic mode, trying to get ahead of the story before I could. The texts were a mix of, hey man, what's going on with you and Emma? Emma is saying you're overreacting about something? Dude, she's making it sound like you just walked out on her for no reason. That last one? That was all I needed to see. She was already lying, already trying to spin it. trying to make it look like I was the bad guy. I knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't taking responsibility, she was trying to control the narrative. I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and did something I never thought I'd have to do. I sent one message to the biggest group chat we had, the one with all our mutual friends. If Emma is telling you that I overreacted or just left, here's the truth: I caught her cheating. At a bar. With a bartender she's been sneaking around with for months. She lied, she gaslit me, and when she got caught, she tried to blame me. That's all there is to it. Then, I attached the photo I had taken of her and Liam at the bar, and I hit send. Silence. For a few minutes, nobody said anything. Then, one by one, the messages started rolling in. Some people were furious, not at me, but at Emma. Wow. She made it sound like you just got mad over nothing. Dude. I had a feeling something was going on, but I didn't want to say anything. She's been lying to everyone, man. That's messed up. And then, the best part, someone added Emma to the chat. The moment she saw the messages, she lost it. She started firing back, saying I was taking things out of context, that I was ruining her reputation, that it wasn't that serious. But it was too late, the truth was out. She couldn't spin it anymore, and watching her flail around, trying to save face, it was the first time I had felt true satisfaction since this whole nightmare started. Emma had spent months thinking she was untouchable, but now, she was finally facing the consequences. The moment Emma realized she had lost control of the narrative, she did exactly what I expected. She went into full meltdown mode. Her messages in the group chat were a chaotic mix of denial, anger, and playing the victim. At first, she tried to act like it was all a misunderstanding. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I was just talking to Liam, nothing happened. I can't believe you would humiliate me like this over something so small. Then, when nobody was siding with her, she flipped the script. I was feeling neglected in our marriage. Maybe if you paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have needed someone else to talk to. You're making me look like a villain when all I wanted was to feel wanted. And that was the final straw for me. That I wasn't about to let her rewrite history. So I sent one final message to the group chat. Emma, let's be clear, you weren't just talking to Liam. You were sneaking around behind my back for months. You lied to me. You lied to our friends. You tried to gaslight me when I caught you. And now, when you've been exposed, you're blaming me? That's pathetic. The second I sent it, the chat exploded. People started calling her out. Some were shocked. Others were furious that she had lied to them. Even her own friends, the ones I thought would take her side, were turning on her. Wow, so you've been lying this whole time? I can't believe you tried to make it seem like he was just being insecure. Emma, this is messed up. Own up to it. And then, the final nail in the coffin, her best friend, someone she had been confiding in, dropped a bombshell. Emma, don't even try to act innocent. You told me weeks ago that you and Liam had been seeing each other. You said you finally felt alive again. So don't pretend like this was just a casual conversation. You knew exactly what you were doing. Silence, absolute silence. Then, Emma left the chat. That was it. She had no way out. And no more excuses, no more gaslighting, no more twisting the story. Everyone knew the truth. After Emma disappeared from the group chat, the fallout was immediate. Mutual friends cut her off. Some people who had been on the fence before finally saw her for what she was. Even some of her closest friends distanced themselves from her, and the best part, Liam ghosted her. Turns out, Liam wasn't looking for a long-term thing. He had no interest in being with a woman who had just blown up her marriage. The moment she became a liability, he was gone. She had thrown everything away: our marriage, her friendships, her reputation, for nothing. And me, I had never felt better. The weight that had been sitting on my chest for months. Gone. Emma thought she could cheat, lie, and walk away without consequences. She thought she could keep her friends, her reputation, and her comfortable life while sneaking around behind my back. But she was wrong, because now, she was completely alone. After Emma rage quit the group chat, everything went silent. No calls, no texts, no desperate attempts to explain herself. For the first time in months, she wasn't lying, gaslighting, or manipulating me, because now, she had no one left to lie to. The truth was out. Her friends had abandoned her. Her affair partner had moved on. And I had already made it clear I was done, but, of course, Emma wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. I should have known she had one last desperate move left in her. A few days later, I was at work when my phone started buzzing. I glanced at the screen and nearly laughed out loud. Emma's mom was calling me. Now, let me be clear, Emma's parents had always been polite to me, but they had babied her all her life. She could do no wrong in their eyes, and any time she messed up, they'd sweep it under the rug. I sighed, debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. Her mom's voice was immediately frantic. She was crying, saying Emma was a mess, that she had been staying with them and was barely eating, barely sleeping. She was devastated, couldn't believe how quickly her life had fallen apart, and then, the part one knew was coming. Her mom asked me to reconsider. She didn't say Emma was innocent. She didn't try to justify the cheating. Instead, she used the classic line, "People make mistakes. She's learned her lesson. Maybe you too can work things out." I took a deep breath and, for the first time, spoke my truth. I'm not punishing her. I'm just walking away from someone who never respected me. Her mom went quiet. Then, after a long pause, she sighed and said, "I just don't know what she's going to do now." That wasn't my problem anymore. I told her I wished her well, but Emma was not my responsibility. Then I hung up. Later that night, Emma finally texted me. I stared at the notification for a long moment before opening it. Her message, a wall of text, filled with apologies, pleas, and self-pity. She told me she was sorry, truly sorry, that she had messed up beyond repair. That she hated herself for what she had done. Then she threw in the last-ditch effort, "I miss you. I don't know how to live without you." I didn't reply. She had months to think about our marriage. Months to be faithful. Months to make better choices, but she didn't. She had destroyed our marriage, not in one night, but over time. Every lie, every excuse, every night she spent in that bar with him was a choice. Now, she was finally facing the consequences, and me, I was finally freed. I blocked her number. For good this time. Blocking Emma's number should have felt like the end of it, like I had finally slammed the door on this nightmare and could move on, but breakups, real breakups, don't end with a clean cut, they end with aftershocks, little reminders of the person who used to be your everything. The habits you built together. The places you used to go. The moments when you reach for your phone, out of instinct, only to remember they're not your person anymore. For the first time in 8 years, I was single, and that felt weird. Once I blocked Emma, I threw myself into getting the divorce done. I wasn't going to drag this out, since we had no kids, no major assets together, and a prenup that worked in my favor. I filed immediately. My lawyer sent Emma the paperwork within a week, and I waited to see what she'd do. I half expected her to fight me on it. To drag things out. To try to make my life miserable one last time, but to my surprise, she signed. I guess even she knew there was nothing left to salvage. With her name on the papers, the process was just a formality. A few months of legal back and forth, and that was it. Marriage over. 8 years of my life, reduced to a stack of paperwork and a signature. During this time, I wasn't thinking about Emma, but apparently, she was thinking about me. I heard through mutual friends that her life was crumbling. She had tried dating again, but her reputation followed her, and most guys didn't take her seriously. Her social circle had shrunk, and the few friends she had left didn't really trust her. She was struggling financially. Without our shared income, she had to downgrade her lifestyle fast, and, the best part, she had tried to get back in touch with Liam, the bartender she threw everything away for. His response, he ghosted her. Turns out, he had moved on to someone else. She destroyed our marriage for a man who never even wanted her. While Emma was spiraling, I was doing the exact opposite. For the first time in years, I was focusing on me. I hit the gym, not because I wanted some kind of revenge body, but because it helped me clear my mind. I reconnected with old friends, the ones I had lost touch with when I was so wrapped up in my marriage. I started traveling again, going to places I had always talked about but never actually visited because Emma had always found some excuse not to go. And the more time passed, the more I realized that Emma had been holding me back for years. She had never truly supported me. She had never been my partner, she had been a distraction. A few months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into one of Emma's old friends at a coffee shop. We made small talk for a bit, and then she looked at me with this weird expression and said, "You know, she really regrets it." I just smiled because by that point, I didn't care anymore. Emma regretted what she had done not because she missed me, but because she had lost everything, and me, I had everything ahead of me. The best revenge isn't anger. It isn't making them suffer. It isn't hoping they fall apart. The best revenge is moving on, and that's exactly what I did. It's been a year since I walked away from Emma. A full year since I packed my bags, filed for divorce, and cut her out of my life for good. And looking back, it was the best decision I've ever made. People always say that time heals everything, but that's not exactly true. Time doesn't heal. It just gives you space to rebuild. At first, there were moments of anger, sadness, frustration. I'd catch myself thinking about her, about the years we spent together, about the life we had planned. And for a split second, I'd wonder, was there something I could have done differently? Then I'd remember how she lied to my face for months. How she laughed with another man while making a fool of me. How she gaslit me into thinking I was paranoid when my gut was screaming at me that something was wrong. She hadn't made a mistake, she had made a choice, and because of that, she had to live with the consequences. I never reached out to Emma after the divorce, but every once in a while, life has a funny way of keeping you updated on the people you're no longer connected to. From what I heard through the grapevine, Emma's life never quite recovered. She tried dating again, but most guys didn't take her seriously once they found out about her past. She lost more friends over time, not because of the cheating, but because she was always playing the victim. Her career stalled. She had once been ambitious, but after losing the stability of our marriage, she struggled to maintain the same level of success. And the biggest irony of all, she never found another relationship that lasted. Liam, the bartender? Gone. The other guys she tried dating? Never stuck around. Turns out, when people realize you have a history of betraying someone who loved you, they don't exactly line up to be your next mistake. While Emma was stuck in her cycle of regrets, I was building a life I actually wanted. I moved to a new city, started a job that I was actually passionate about, and surrounded myself with good, loyal people, the kind of people who actually cared about me. I didn't rush into another relationship. I focused on me, on my happiness, on my future. And you know what I learned? I had been holding on to the wrong person for years. Emma was never my soulmate. She was never my best friend, she was just the wrong person I spent too much time trying to love. And now, I was freed. If you've read my story, if you've ever been in my shoes, here's what I want you to take away from this: trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't let a cheater gaslight you. They will lie, manipulate, and twist reality to make themselves look like the victim. Don't fall for it. Walk away with dignity. Revenge isn't worth it. Exposing them, embarrassing them, it might feel good in the moment, but the best thing you can do? Cut them off and move on. You don't have to fix what someone else broke. If they cheat, that's on them. Not you. You weren't the problem. The best revenge is happiness. Emma thought she could throw me away and walk into a better life, but now, I'm the one who's happy, and she's just a lesson I'll never forget. Even though I had cut Emma out of my life completely, her downfall wasn't quite finished. At this point, I had no reason to check in on her, no reason to care about what she was doing. She was just a chapter one had already closed. But life has a funny way of making sure you see how karma plays out. It had been months since our divorce was finalized, and I was finally in a good place mentally, emotionally, even physically. Then, out of nowhere, Emma emailed me, not a text, not a call. An email that I was at work when I saw it pop up in my inbox. I stared at the screen for a long moment, debating whether I even wanted to open it. But curiosity got the best of me, and honestly, it was the most pathetic thing I've ever read. She started off with the usual fake remorse. I just wanted to reach out because I've had time to reflect, and I see now how much I took you for granted. You were such a good husband, and I didn't appreciate that at the time. I was selfish, and I let myself make choices I can never take back. Then, she pivoted. I miss what we had. I miss talking to you. I know it's a long shot, but do you think we could grab coffee sometime? Just to talk. I actually laughed. This was so predictable. Emma thought she could cheat, destroy our marriage, act like she didn't care, and then, when everything blew up in her face, she thought she could come back like nothing had happened. She wasn't reaching out because she missed me, she was reaching out because her life had fallen apart, and she needed a safety net. She thought I was still that guy, the one who used to love her enough to forgive anything. She was wrong that I didn't even bother responding. I just deleted the email and moved on with my day. A week later, I got a message from an unexpected source. Emma's old best friend, Melissa. Melissa and I had never been particularly close, but she had been part of our social circle. When the truth about Emma's affair came out, she had distanced herself from both of us, not wanting to take sides, but now, she had something to say. She told me that Emma was struggling. Apparently, after she sent me that email, she had tried reaching out to multiple people in our old friend group. She was looking for anyone who would listen, anyone who would comfort her, and no one did. Most people had moved on from her drama. Others still held a grudge over how she tried to manipulate the situation. She had burned too many bridges, and the best part, Melissa casually dropped this at the end of our conversation. Oh, and guess who got fired? I nearly choked on my drink. Turns out, Emma had lost her job. Apparently, her performance at work had been slipping for months. She was distracted, making careless mistakes, and even had a meltdown in the office when someone mentioned my name. Her boss had finally had enough and let her go. So now, no husband. No friends. No reputation. No job. Emma had officially lost everything, and me, I was doing better than ever. Hearing that Emma had lost her job should have made me feel something: anger, satisfaction, maybe even pity. But the truth, I felt nothing. She had made her choices, and now she was dealing with the consequences. I didn't care what happened to her anymore, because for the first time in years, my life was completely mine again. With the divorce finalized and Emma out of my life, I had a choice to make: stay in the same place, surrounded by old memories, or start fresh. I chose the latter. I took the leap and moved to a new city. It wasn't some dramatic, across the world change, but it was far enough that I wasn't constantly running into mutual acquaintances or walking past places that reminded me of Emma. I found a new job. One that actually excited me, one that gave me the kind of independence I hadn't had in years. I focused on myself for the first time in a long time. I started traveling, hitting places I had always wanted to see. I got back into old hobbies that Emma had never been interested in. I made new friends, people who didn't know me as the guy whose wife cheated on him. And the more time passed, the more I realized something huge: Emma had been holding me back for years. She had never truly supported me, never been my partner in the way I thought she was. Looking back, I could see all the red flags I had ignored. The way she always needed external validation. The way she always had to be the center of attention. The way she had made me feel like I wasn't enough. And the best part, I finally understood that her cheating had nothing to do with me. I hadn't failed her. I wasn't the reason she strayed. She was just the kind of person who would never be satisfied with anything real, and that was her problem. Just when I thought I had heard the last of Emma, she made one final move. She reached out through a mutual friend. Apparently, after being fired and realizing no one wanted to deal with her anymore, she had decided she wanted to talk to me. She told the friend she just wanted closure. That she wanted to meet up one last time. That she had things she needed to say. I didn't even hesitate. I told the friend to tell her, no. I didn't need closure. I didn't need to hear whatever excuse she had come up with. She had all the time in the world to be honest with me when we were together. She had months to fix what was broken, to communicate, to act like a decent person, but instead, she had lied. Manipulated. Betrayed. Now, she wanted a conversation. She didn't deserve one. I never responded to her again, and that was the real closure. After shutting down Emma's final attempt to reach out, something inside me finally settled. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for karma to finish its work. I wasn't thinking about her at all, because for the first time in years, I was truly freed. It's funny when you're stuck in a toxic relationship, you don't realize how much it's weighing you down. I spent so long trying to make things work with Emma, thinking that if I just tried harder, if I just did more, she would finally appreciate what she had. now I see how one-sided that was. A healthy relationship isn't supposed to feel like a full-time job where you're constantly proving your worth. It's supposed to feel natural, easy, like breathing, and now, I finally know what that feels like. That I started dating again. Nothing serious, no rushing into anything. Just meeting new people without the pressure of a broken marriage dragging me down. That I landed a promotion at work, something I never had the energy to go after when I was stuck dealing with Emma's nonsense. That I finally got to reconnect with old friends, the ones Emma had subtly pushed out of my life over the years. Turns out, they had been waiting for me to wake up and see the truth, and the best part, I don't feel bitter anymore. I don't wake up thinking about what Emma did to me. I wake up thinking about what I want to do next. The last I heard, Emma left town. She burned too many bridges where we lived, lost too many friends, and had nowhere left to turn. She tried starting fresh somewhere else, but from what little I heard, it wasn't working out the way she hoped, because no matter where she goes, no matter how many times she tries to reinvent herself, she will always be the same person underneath, someone who takes good things for granted, someone who destroys what she has in search of something that never truly existed, someone who only realizes what she lost when it's too late to get it back. And that's not my problem anymore. Looking back, this entire experience taught me more than I ever expected. If something feels wrong, it probably is. I ignored so many red flags because I didn't want to believe the truth. Never again. You can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. I gave Emma everything: love, stability, loyalty. She wanted chaos. That wasn't something I could ever change. The best revenge is success. Emma lost everything. I built my life back up from scratch. I don't need to rub it in, I just need to keep moving forward. Walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. The moment I stopped chasing closure, stopped waiting for an apology that would never come, that's when I truly won. And now, I've never been happier. A year ago, my life felt like it was falling apart. Now, I realize it was just falling into place. They say the last part of healing isn't forgiving the person who hurt you, it's realizing you just don't care anymore, and that's exactly where I am. I don't wonder where Emma is or what she's doing. I don't waste energy hating her or hoping she suffers. I don't even bring her up in conversations anymore unless someone specifically asks, because the truth, she doesn't matter to me anymore. She's just a past chapter, a mistake I learned from, nothing more. I used to think that moving on meant finding someone new to fill the void she left behind. But I realized something important: I was never missing her. I was missing who I thought she was, and once I understood that, I stopped missing her at all. I won't pretend everything magically fell into place overnight. It took time, effort, and a lot of self-reflection to get to where I am today. But here's what I can say: I'm in the best shape of my life. Not just physically, but mentally. I've built a stronger, healthier social circle. No fake friends, no one who tolerates lies or drama. I've learned how to be completely happy on my own, and yeah, I've started dating again. But the difference, I'm taking my time. I'm not rushing into something just because I want to fill a space. I'm actually enjoying meeting people, learning about them, seeing what real compatibility looks like, because now, I know what I deserve and I will never settle for less again. The last real update I got about Emma came from a mutual friend who saw her a few months ago. Apparently, she looked worn down, tired, stressed. Like someone who realized too late that she had ruined her own life. She had moved cities, switched jobs, and was trying to start over, but even in a new place, she was still the same person, still blaming others for her problems, still trying to escape the consequences of her choices, still refusing to take responsibility. And honestly, that's her burden to carry. She thought she could throw me away like I was nothing. But in the end, she was the one who lost everything, and me, I walked away with everything ahead of me. If you're reading this, if you've ever been in my shoes, if you're going through something similar right now, let me leave you with this: walking away is your superpower. Don't waste time waiting for an apology. Don't let a cheater gaslight you into thinking you did something wrong. Don't let your past define you, because the moment you decide you deserve better, you win. And that's the only closure you'll ever need. I never thought I'd get to this point. When I first found out about Emma's betrayal, it felt like my entire world had collapsed. The life I thought I had built, gone. The person I thought I knew, A lie that I spent months trying to make sense of it, trying to understand why someone who had everything would throw it all away. But now, I don't need answers anymore, because the truth is simple. Some people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone, and when they finally realize what they lost, it's too late. It's strange looking back at everything. If you had told me a year ago that I would be completely indifferent to Emma, I wouldn't have believed you, but now, she's just someone I used to know. I don't wonder where she is. I don't check up on her. I don't ask mutual friends about her, because she doesn't matter anymore. She made her choices. She destroyed our marriage. She burned every bridge, lost every real friend she had, and ended up alone. And me, I didn't just survive. I thrived. If there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that life doesn't end after betrayal. I moved to a new city. A place where I wasn't haunted by old memories. A place that felt like a fresh start. I found success in my career. Without Emma's drama constantly weighing me down, I was able to fully focus on my work, and it paid off. I built a real support system. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and surrounded myself with people who actually cared about me. I learned how to be happy alone. I didn't rush into another relationship. I took my time, figured out who I was outside of being Emma's husband, and finally became the best version of myself. And now, I'm in a relationship again, not because I needed someone to fix what Emma broke. Not because I was desperate to fill a void, but because I finally met someone who matches my energy, my loyalty, my values, someone who doesn't take me for granted. Someone who doesn't play games, someone who knows what real love looks like. And the difference between this relationship and the one I had with Emma, it's night and day, because when you're with the right person, you don't have to fight for scraps of affection. You don't have to wonder if they're lying to you. You don't have to beg for the bare minimum. It just works. If you've followed my story, if you've ever been betrayed, if you're in the middle of trying to figure out whether to stay or walk away, this is what I want you to know: you don't owe a cheater anything, not a conversation, not closure, not another chance. They made their choice. Make yours. The best revenge isn't getting even, it's moving on. I could have tried to ruin Emma's life the way she ruined mine. But in the end, she did that all by herself. And me? I'm thriving. Time doesn't heal everything you do, time doesn't magically make the pain go away. You have to choose to rebuild yourself. And once you do, you come out stronger. The right person won't make you feel replaceable. Emma needed attention from strangers to feel validated. My new partner? She only needs me. That's the difference between real love and conditional love. The best thing you can do after betrayal is walk away with your head held high. Don't let them see you break. Don't beg for answers. Just leave. And watch as they realize, too late, that you were the best thing that ever happened to them. This is the last update I'll ever post about Emma. She's not my problem anymore. My life is mine again, and I've never been happier. To anyone reading this who's been cheated on, who feels like their world is ending, trust me. One day, you'll look back and realize that the person who betrayed you did you the biggest favor. Because they set you free, and when you're free, you win.